Welcome, traders. It is Sunday, the 27th of August. I'm recording this for Monday, 28th of August. And so first of all, yes, we've got a big week coming up. So don't forget, it's the first week of September. I can't believe it, but that is the case. But that includes non-farm payroll. So really, the week is going to roll towards Wednesday's non-farm employment change. This will be ADP figures coming out. And then, of course, we'll have unemployment figures. What is wrong with me? On Thursday, and then finishing off with the non-farm movements and unemployment rate on Friday. So that'll be these should be the most volatile activities throughout the week. And we could see some big swings either way. So I would really exercise some caution because we don't really know yet if we're going to have, it looks as though the dollar has continued to strengthen. The only question will be, will it have a surge in strength to finish up this coming week, or will it be overextended and have a correction to the downside? So that's really why I suggest exercising caution on it and just making sure I'm not too exposed by the end of the week. Okay, so that being said, let's go across and have a look at what's going on in the charts. Okay, so looking at the VIX, you can see we've already managed to come back down over the last week. So we're actually looking slightly less, although we had spiked up a little bit a week ago, we've come back down. Again, this is part of the reason why I emphasize context is important, and realizing that although when I say that the VIX has climbed a bit, it is still fractional compared to what I would expect if there was some kind of dire financial situation. So then moving on to the dollar index, you can see we have managed to break this downward trend line. This is just a line within the sand, and you can see that last week we managed to push and surge through that in that weekly chart, now starting still within a downtrend technically, but we have broken a most recent swing high. We're still within the range on the monthly, and looking as though we're very much heading at least up to the recent highs in the range, if not all the way back up towards 105. And that's really what the question is going to be about this coming week. Is it going to be a continuation? But there's a very good possibility it's going to push its way up to 105, and therefore we can reasonably expect a stronger dollar this week. The question is how is that going to impact the major currencies? How is that going to impact major commodities? And how is it going to impact the global indices and equities? Let's go ahead and have a look. Let's look at euro dollar. So euro dollar, you can see starting to push through a major level of support just below that 10800 level, and actually starting to look like it just cannot get to that 1.1 level. Lots of rejections going back all the way to February this year. If we start to break below these lows. So I think this week I'll be looking for continuations down towards 1.07. Any kind of pullbacks, rejections, and a continuation heading further down makes the most sense. The same will be for sterling. You can see sterling is a little bit stronger. We've got a nice uptrend. We're putting back into, I would say, a major level to take note of here would be the 1.250 level. Then see how the market reacts at that point. Aussie dollar, same thing. We're sitting at a level here which could turn out to be significant. We are overextended to the downside, but we've got a monthly downtrend. See the wick rejections at that 6720 level. Although this level is significant, it's not impossible to say we couldn't break through and go down towards 0.62. So keep an eye on that. Kiwi dollar would be a similar type of experiment. We have that potential to continue down towards 5840 or 0.58. Then having a look at dollar yen. Dollar yen would, it makes sense, would then subsequently continue to move higher. And so the real danger here is any kind of intervention from the Bank of Japan, but there's a possibility of it going up towards continuing this week, and I would say continuing to push up to say 1.48 at the very least. What's great about this is it'll provide day traders plenty of opportunities with high probability setups, except as we head towards the ADP and non-farm payroll. That's where that volatility starts to become problematic. You can see here dollar Swissy back in this area. Is it going to continue down? So this is why I've drawn in this arrow a couple of weeks ago. Just looking to see if this is the area where we will potentially find resistance and turn around. We're going to have to wait and see how that goes because it may, if it is going to do that, it's going to do it at 88.50 or up here towards 0.89 in that next level. Dollar CAD continuing to push higher. You can just see here, you can see how nice and strong and crisp that rejection of those levels are on the weekly. Now it's starting to look more and more bullish. It has got a level over here. I'm going to mark this in. It's definitely got a level that it wants to battle with at that 1.36 level. But then possibility for a continuation a little bit higher. That monthly still within a downtrend of lower highs, lower lows. But another way of looking at it is as a bull flag. Okay, so this is strong. Again, this is worthwhile putting in a little bit of a trend line. So let's add this in. Let's just go and put that in, draw it in, make it a little bit sort of transparent, kind of get a sense of what this is, and just keep an eye on that. Once we start to breach that, then this becomes a bull flag. I beg your pardon, bull flag. Okay, so let's move on to commodities. What do I think in terms of currency pairs? If I just momentarily take a step back, go back to the currency pairs and have a look. The first one I'm going to be looking at, are we still getting some strong trends with Euro Aussie, for example? Is this a good continuation to the upside as a double bottom? We're starting a bit of a weekly retracement there, so not really convinced just yet. But if we look at something, say for example Euro Yen, I think Euro Yen is going to put us in some possibility here for a continuation up. So Euro Yen looking nice and bullish. Pound Yen almost certainly going to be looking really good. That is a possible setup over there. And let's actually just move this one over here. That's a possible setup over there. So let's have a look. One of the things that does catch my eye is this struggle with this level here. This is a significant level. We can see it's battling with that. That's actually effectively a double top. And so it is battling here. And there could be some bearish divergence. That's a little bit overextended. Okay, so I take that back. Although this may well be a setup, there is some risk here that it's going to fail at this level and continue down because the weekly looks a bit funny and the monthly looks a bit overextended. What about the other pairs? Let's have a look at Aussie Yen. Aussie Yen, okay, still producing lower highs. Bit of a consolidation there, not looking good. Kiwi Yen, not looking good at all. Stuck within that range. Let's have a look at CAD Yen. CAD Yen looks more and more bullish. So there we go. So CAD Yen looks as though if it could break out of this level, it's got some good continuation boost to the upside. And Swissie Yen, also a similar look to Pound Yen. And actually, you can see it's got that little tweezer impact on the weekly, overextended on the monthly, and hinting at a possible push higher here. Looks to me as though Dollar Yen has got the one with the greatest possibility. But they're not. So just to recap, the yen crosses don't across the board don't look that fantastic, but if that we do get any kind of Bank of Japan continuation of what we've had, they should continue to push the upside, but I'm not really loving them. It's one of those rare situations where dollar yen looks the most appealing out of all the yen crosses. To me, it's usually the crosses that I prefer. Okay, sorry, let's continue. Let's go ahead and have a look at gold. So what I was looking to see here is we've got this, I like this, we're back up above the $1.1900 level. We've got effectively got a nice little rejection of that level. A continuation, a break above the high of last week's high for me would be a bullish signal, and I would expect a continuation. I would see gold attempting to change its daily downtrend and its weekly downtrend and try to work a little bit higher. That's quite important. On the other hand, should we break below the low of this, then I think it's feasible, very fair to say we would start to see gold continue to move lower. Look at silver. Silver's had a really good bounce up here, nice little double bottom, and therefore silver is hinting at it's saying that it would prefer to move higher rather than go lower. Then moving on to energies, let's look at natural gas. Very much range bound. This is one of those situations where it's justifiable, I think, to highlight that range, stick it in there, and so we can have a look at that and see what's going on. Okay, so that's our range there. We're stuck within the range there. It's reasonable to expect it to potentially try and turn around here, but it has gone from, I mean, if we really want to summarize it, we had a strong downtrend. We went sideways. We're still going sideways. It's trying to turn around, and that is where we are at the moment. Then we have a look at West Texas crude oil. It's a nice retracement within these moves higher. So we're above the 50-period moving average, which is somewhere we haven't been for a while on crude oil, and therefore could find some support in this area. So I'm going to mark this level to see if that is ultimately what happens. Do we manage to find support in this area? We'll have to see. If we can start to break a little bit higher this week, then that will be the case. If we have a look at crude oil by comparison, this is also very much trying to turn around where it is at this point. Okay, I don't really like that. That's a better placement, would be somewhere around here. That is a better placement for support. And also here you can see the wicks coming in, plenty of buyers, also sitting above the 50-period moving average, and also that 10 and 20 trying to move above that 50-period moving average. So there's a lot hinting at the fact that there are buyers here trying to push this higher this week. Could see that being the case. Okay, and then we move on to the global indices. Again, Friday being a relatively decent day for the markets, closing a little bit higher, staying above this level. Let's put in a minor daily support level over here. So that's good. We can stay above that. Let's see if we can do that. Although this is a little bit of a spinning top candle, it could potentially be a swing low, but we would need to break the high. So for me this week, we'll be watching the high of last week's candle and to see if we break that first. If we look at the S&P, we still have a bit of a bullish inside candle. We failed a little bit, some exhaustion here, but the game ain't over yet, especially if on the daily this turns out to be a higher low. It's a nice little bullish candle here. Again, I'd be looking for breaks above the high and breaking the high of last week, and then that would signify that we've come in and tested that level. Okay, so we've retraced. You can see we're in an uptrend. We're still in a bull market. What we're really looking for at this time is the turning point, the swing low on the weekly. That's what we're looking for. And once we get that, we could reasonably expect, if it does unfold as could be expected, then I would think that we would see a big move from here on outwards. So just the only thing I want to comment on here are some of the wicks in this area, but it's still a bullish candles in the sense that we have a nice little bit of green body here off that 20-period moving average. I don't want to see us break the low of that. Low that would be a bit of a correction further down. I'd like to see us rebound from here. Again, though, one very reasonable scenario is that we see price drop down, tap the low, and then by the time that we get to the tail end of the week, we finish with a bullish candle. That's what I spoke about last week, and that's a very much a feasible possibility here. Look at the daily. The daily is trying to turn around here, producing a lot more green bullish rejection candles, but that doesn't mean it's over yet. The weekly, still an indecision, classic kind of spinning top there. Want to see if possibly we need to tap the low and then reverse. FTSE. Oh, and actually, just to go back to that a little bit more, sorry, we've got the NASDAQ here. Just looking at that monthly starting that retracement. All right, so it's, for me, I don't mind having a good bullish candle here. And I'm okay with this candle being a red candle because we needed a monthly retracement as well. So that's a big part of that. What was the Russell 2000? Okay, the Russell 2000 is the one that's more stuck within the range. Hasn't shown any signs of turning around. The FTSE is trying, that's potentially something there. Okay, we didn't get any bullish divergence here. That would have been a clearer sign for me. But we've got a possible green candle here again. A break above the high would be relatively significant for me to see this move a little bit higher this week. Okay, so but it's nice to see that happening on the FTSE. The DAX also trying and failing. It's actually failed to come back below this level. So when I look at all of these, that was the first attempt for the bulls to come back in and to try to reverse it, and they failed. It wouldn't, we didn't close red in a lot of the areas, which we could have, which would have been a very bearish signal, but we have not closed. I would not call it a success. We are still in an area where we could dip a little bit low before turning around or reverse from this point onwards. And that's why I say the highs of the last week's candles or the most recent candles would be the things to watch. Here's the ASX in Australia, closing a little bit lower, a bit of an indecision candle there. Also stuck within a range in this area. So not strong, not really particularly strong signals at this time. And the thing is that it often happens that you don't get a strong signal. So that's why I'm saying if we do manage to turn around from here, it's not going to be a shock, because in principle, I do believe that we are still in a bull market and therefore we will still turn around at some point. The question for me is really, where are we going to turn around? All right. And also, again, a lot of these I could see, although we did drop down to this level, 32,000, 31,000, putting back to the previous highs would also have been acceptable. So kind of looking at these, if we had one more week of the market staying where they are or dropping a little bit lower in this general area, it wouldn't completely surprise me based off of the technicals. Apple's produced a nice little bullish candle there in the buy zone in the 50, 20, and 10 in that moving average area. It's also retraced back up to the old highs. This is a good place for Apple to turn around. All right, let's have a look at Amazon. Amazon, again, is holding where it is. It doesn't need anything else. It's come back into a nice possible area here to find support on the daily. These look good. So again, to me, to my mind, Amazon has got the potential to keep going. AT&T is just desperately trying to turn around here. It's looking very, very weak. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see these smaller candles building up a bearish close below this and seeing it drop below that. And if it did, it would be reasonable to expect AT&T to drop down to towards the next lows, even potentially further down towards 12. This is its last real shot. You can see this is attempting to turn around and become bullish, but it isn't there yet. Kathy Wood's ARC trying desperately here to find a bit of a spot to turn around and hold on to that. We're going to have to see. It's still stuck within this range on the monthly. We need to see it break above that as well. It's just above that 50-period moving average. It has that potential to turn around, but it's also sitting on a little bit of a razor's edge where it is now, where it might drop lower. Whereas the ones I've just been looking at above that are looking quite a bit stronger. We've got Glencore here producing a bullish candle at the bottom of a range. If it decides to work its way back up from here, that makes sense within that range-like behavior. Tesco has actually managed to hold out. Bit of a double bottom there, still within a range. We have to break above those highs this week. But that monthly looking very nice. So some good signs there. Amex has got an area where we can find support. So this week, if we do manage to produce a bullish candle off this level, I'll be happy. It is also overextended on the daily, so it does need to do a retracement there. Berkshire Hathaway is holding where it is. Again, not bad. It could continue to the upside. It would have been much, I would have preferred that it pulled, retraced back down to the moving averages and continued up. But what it does look like it is doing is it's trying to turn around where it is here. Tap 350. And here's a good example of where if we break above the high this week, we can reasonably expect it to continue on. So the weekly charts are quite significant at the moment. This is just a mess. Coca-Cola, within the bigger picture, to me, this is just a consolidation period or potentially a let's call it an ascending triangle that's forming here at the moment. Just a mess, just going sideways. So bullish signs here as well would be reasonable to see that happen. If we get a big bearish close below the low, then I still see it as coming back down towards the 58 level. BP and Exxon, let's have a look at those. Nothing to see here, just complete, I want to say garbage, but I don't always want to be using the same word. But yeah, we just stuck within a range. There's not a lot happening here. So let's see if we can get out of that. Let's see how Exxon's doing. Trying to stay up above the top of the same range. Monthly actually looks bullish. In isolation, that monthly looks as though we had a classic pullback, tapped this level, pull back again, bullish candle breaking the high. So looking at the monthly for Exxon, it looks as though it's going to continue up higher over the coming month. General Motors, bottom of the range again. You can see bottom of the range over here. Let's see if it gets a nice rejection off this the coming week. JP Morgan, this is a great area to produce a bullish candle. In my view, it's coming back into the old highs within an uptrend. Great area, hasn't done it yet. Let's see if we can get that to turn around this week. Adidas, just a mess. Again, look at the candles price action here. It's battling. Worthwhile, I think, to put in a level to mark the highs here. See if we can get break and close above that on a bullish candle. If we do that, that'll be a good sign. Meta having a really nice healthy correction on the weekly. This is a great place for it to be. This is a small doji or inside or spinning candle, spinning top, I beg your pardon. It's inside because it has a higher low and a lower high. If we break the high of this, we could see a really good turn and a move to the upside. But again, when I look at the monthly has got its own thing going on. A break below the low of the monthly in next month in September should see a correction. And actually, I should mention at this time that historically, Septembers have not been good for the markets. We've had more bad Septembers than good Septembers by a significant amount. So it's interesting to me. Could we see September be a bit of a correction as well and then see a surge up from October, see that Santa Claus rally kick in? Okay, I'm going to mention that because it does deserve or should be worth mentioning. Morgan Stanley, not Microsoft, also coming back down to the bottom of the range. So most of these make sense. You expect it to keep going. NVIDIA. So NVIDIA's had an interesting week. Failed again. So for those of you who follow me, what do you think that means? There's another failure over here so far. Okay, couldn't do it. Tried to break out, failed. Still, by the way, tapped 500. Now, just for those of you who might not have seen my previous mentions, I originally had highlighted this as the danger zone. It's overextended. This is an area where I would expect it to turn around. I then extended that up to 500 and mentioned, it could go a little bit higher. But my point was that it was absolutely going parabolic, which is something that Bitcoin has done in the past. It's something Tesla's done in the past. And that's just something that NVIDIA is going through now. I just eventually kept it at 500 because it's a nice round number. It's significant. And it appears to be relatively overextended. Could it try and go again? It could, but we're very close to the end of the month here. And we've basically started to produce our very first red candle. So when you produce a red candle on the monthly, it is very often followed by a correction to the downside. So just keep that in mind that how we close this month is significant. The moving averages have now moved up to the previous high. And so if we finish as a red candle, a break next month and coming down to this level would be very good for NVIDIA. It would make people panic in the media, but technically speaking, it's a beautiful correction. It would become a 382, a 40 or 50% retracement. It would become a very good buy opportunity here, and it can then recover and continue. And if that is the case, that also hints at September being a bit of a down month. Okay, so let's prepare for that. Let's just prepare for the possibility. September could be another correction. Some of them need a bigger correction. Some markets have already corrected. The correction has more to do with value. necessarily. Sorry, let me rephrase that. The correction has mostly to do with value. Some things can lag, so some things can already have corrected and are ready to go, and other things might have been holding out and haven't corrected yet. And so just assuming that even though this has a big correction doesn't mean everything else is going to have a big correction. Netflix coming down, not a bad area. It's broken the high of last week and a bullish candle, a slightly higher low. It's a good area. The green area marks out where it would be very good for it to turn around. So anywhere in this area is good for it to turn around. PayPal is desperately trying to turn around. It really is. This is interesting. Bullish divergence, bullish inside candle, could be a double bottom. Okay, so let's mark that as a possible double bottom and just put a little question mark there. See if we're going to get that. Okay. Spotify, good place for it to turn around. Fine. I mean, it's between the 20 and the 50. I'd prefer to come back down here and tap it, but it is attempted to turn around. This is, if you had to merge these two candles, you would get a rejection candle. Okay. Actually, you'd kind of get a little bit of a doji, but that's a fair way. You can see it went down, got little tweezers over here, turned around, closed up. Then we've got another bullish candle here as well. Could also be at close to the bottom of the range, could turn around from here. A lot of these range bound ones would benefit from touching the bottom of the range and then turning around. So I think where I'm going with this is that we've got another week potentially of a stronger dollar. We could see that the first half of the week sees the dollar strengthen. We see a lot of the markets come down a little bit further. Possibly then the second half of the week, we see a reversal. We get a rejection maybe of the $105 index. And we get a reversal in some of the markets, and we get nice bullish candles possibly in that. That's a very reasonable possibility. So FedEx wasn't seeing much to change there. It still looks bullish to me. It just needs to turn around. Tesla turning around this area. So there we go. I highlighted the little blue bars to see if we turn around this area off that trend line. Close enough to tap in it. Not bad. I'm somewhat satisfied with that if we're going to be the case. As you know, I'm at this point. This is not, in my mind, is not so much to do with Elon, although management can impact a stock price. What I'm saying is I'm focusing purely on the technicals in this particular case. All right. Then we have Vanguard. Vanguard also producing a very nice, this is a bullish signal. In isolation, this is a bullish signal, but we need to see a confirmation of that, seeing a break above the high there. Then we finish off, I've added Walt Disney. This is very significant in my mind, guys, because we started to leak through this. This is a very bearish formation. Also, we're below that 50-period moving average, and the 10 and 20 have reordered. So in this situation, unless we could turn around where we are, and I'm going to create a backup copy at these levels here. I'll create that. So that is the lowest low we got through these periods here. I'm going to create that. To me, would be the very last line in the sand. If we cannot hold and turn around in this area, then it is reasonable to expect that Disney will continue down $50, so on and so forth. We'll just keep going down towards these levels, and we'll have to see what happens with that. You can see the MACD is also fully bearish, hasn't been below this level since going all the way back to 2009. So just think about the implications of that. What does it mean? To my mind, the very first thing I think of is mergers and acquisitions or a hostile takeover. It means I can just get bought up by Amazon. As soon as their stock price becomes cheap enough, there's always the possibility that that can happen. So then they just get acquired by someone else. And can a smaller company acquire a bigger company? Absolutely. In my previous life in the film industry, we had 3D Studio, which was the kind of little sort of man on the streets animation software owned by a company called Autodesk, and they then went and acquired all the highest level film compositing stuff, the Flames, the Infernos, that were just massive systems. Basically the equivalent of the little Fiat acquiring the Lamborghini. That's kind of what happened. And could that happen here? Absolutely. You might find that Netflix acquires Disney or Amazon acquires Disney. Could happen. Interesting times. Okay, cool. So 10-year, let's look at bonds. You can see they're still hitting low. Still a sign that the market isn't really that hungry for them at this time. Eurobonds trying to turn around here. So yeah, we might find, because this is some of the starting in 2022, more than a year ago, and you can see all of this going throughout 2022. Okay, so you could see that. And so what we could see down the line is we could see that this is the bottom for many years to come. But we'll have to see. But I can say this, that I think once you start to break back up above 140, it'll be interesting to see what kind of economic climate we're living in at that time, because it'll be interesting to see it having turned around and start to work its way up again. Cryptos, very quickly. So if the rest of the markets are still battling, I can't see how cryptos are necessarily going to do well. I've said this in the past before. We've had one exception, 1 week, I think, where cryptos managed to do well, while everything else wasn't really, while everything else was still struggling. It's still showing it's trying to stay above these levels. There's trying to stay above that 26 level, and we'll see what it can do here. But I'm not expecting anything from it. You can see here as well, just a lot of rejections below here. So a lot of buyers below these levels, but the market is just kind of treading water at this time. Let's just quickly see the others. So there's Solana trying to stay above where it is. They're just weak, but trying to hold at those levels. In fact, funny enough, relatively speaking, Cardano is looking relatively well. This looks more bullish to me. Big, strong rejections here. Nice little bullish candle looking like it wants to push higher. And Binance, of course, has got its own world of pain. You can see it's trying to stay above these levels. So yeah, overall, crypto is not looking super strong, and kind of just sticking along with everything else. So let's just recap. I want to exercise some caution this week. We don't know how the week is going to end. It's very important. We don't know how the week is going to end. It does look high probability that we're going to get a stronger dollar out the gate. But how will we have a strong dollar finish? That is still to be decided. We'll have to see how that goes. And so I really want to pay attention. And the volatility starts to work its way in from about Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Friday will be the big finish. But the direction that it moves on Friday could already be established by Thursday. So you could have your change in trend by Wednesday. So I'm just exercising caution. Day traders will be focusing on what the day is doing. And if the day changes the next day, they'll be changing direction with that as well. End of day traders will be just making sure they've got their safe, risk under control and stop loss in reasonable places. And that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to wish you a wonderful week, and I will see you in next week's video. Thank you very much.